The franchise hot seat is for information and entertainment purposes and is not an offer to sell franchises. If the hot seat introduces you to a franchise concept that interests you, you must do your own due diligence before making an investment. Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat. I'm your host, John Hayes, Director of the Franchise Center at Palm Beach Atlantic University. Next up in the hot seat, our dream team will evaluate a new franchise concept that delivers ABA therapies. Let me introduce you to the dream team for this presentation. These elite executives are superstars in their industries and in franchising. CEO of United Franchise Group, Ray Titus. Co-founder of Crank Enterprises, a venture marketing company, Brian Margolis. President of FranWise, Mary Ann O'Connell. And the ever-insightful CEO of Fran Fund, Jeff Sieber. Now welcome to the hot seat, the CEO of Success on the Spectrum, Nicole Daher.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Daher and I am founder of Success on the Spectrum. I originally started this business for my daughter, who was diagnosed with autism when she was 2 years old. We found it super difficult to find autism treatment for her, and that's when I stumbled on this amazing industry. The autism treatment market is in very, very high demand. And that's because more and more children every year are being diagnosed with autism. In fact, from the year 2000 to the year 2016, the instance of children being diagnosed with autism has increased by over 300%. The number of providers that offer autism treatment has not nearly met the demand for the services that are needed. In fact, if you add up all of the service providers in the country, they only account for 1/3 of the need that is here. So we all know that high demand and low supply equals business opportunity, which is why I decided to franchise my business. And again, the autism industry is the fastest growing market in the medical sector. Completely just huge market here. And they're predicting it to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 4.3%. So it's only going to get bigger. And unlike other industries, the autism treatment market actually gets favorable regulations from the government. So just recently, federal laws have mandated all of these publicly funded insurance plans, like what you would get from the ACA marketplace. They've mandated them to pay for autism treatment as a medically necessary service. In addition, the IDEA Act and the ADA requires school districts to offer autism services for kids with special needs. And these teachers are not very well trained or not staffed properly to provide these services. So the school district actually funds private providers like Success on the Spectrum to go into the school to offer these services to children. So now that we've become a franchise, we currently have 6 locations in Texas. We're looking to expand our footprint. We want to create more access for more kids in different areas of the country, and we need help. We're looking for the dream team to tell us how is the best way to obtain more franchisees so that we can provide access of services to more children across the country.
Well, Nicole, first of all, congratulations on establishing a strong foundation for success on a spectrum. Very clearly, your services have a direct impact on not only those with autism, but their immediate families as well. It sounds like you have a big opportunity to also help others as you grow your franchise business as a whole. So a couple things really from a marketing perspective, from what I can see, branding is an area of improvement. It's going to be important to identify your key messages, identify your audience segment, and really establish yourself a little stronger in the marketplace from what I can see today. Branding, as you know, is going to be an anchor for awareness and getting others involved and invested in your company, right? They're investing in you, they're investing in your brand. But from talking about a franchise development standpoint, you mentioned about how to get more franchisees to join your brand. And if it were me, I would kind of look at it from building from the inside out in your case. I don't always say that for a typical franchise model, but in your industry, in your sector, it really makes sense to build from the inside out. With autism, on the rise, the number of personal connections that people have to autism is increasing, right? So whether it's an immediate family member or a friend, these are people who will see firsthand and feel that impact that organizations and franchise model like yourself has on someone, and that's something where they may have a little more skin in the game, a little more invested, or a reason to get involved. Okay, beyond just the monetary opportunity and beyond the business opportunity of it, they might have that same drive and passion that you have, in starting your business. The difference is you've created that footprint for them. You've pioneered that model, that system that can build and establish a product or a service that can be scalable, right? And that is something that others would want to follow, but they have to be connected in some way in this perspective. So out of pure demand, I think will come opportunities to expand your footprint. And I think you have to work that inner circle and build from the inside out. A couple operational challenges that I see for you ahead, and as franchise partners looking to get involved, some of the common things that you're going to have to address is the constant changing of regulations, fighting with insurance companies, hiring and training the therapists, and make sure that everything is qualified, and become the leader in providing the service in what you do, is a constant moving motion, and that's concern I guess I would have in how are you going to take this franchise model, build it, scale, make it scalable and bulletproof for your franchise partners to get involved and run that system. So I'm curious to know from you, what are some of the challenges that you perhaps see yourself facing with hiring therapists, and what's involved with fighting the insurance companies, and those type of barriers that others may have to be aware of getting into the business?
Yes. There are a lot of difficulties finding qualified staff, especially behavior analysts, because there are so few of them. We have addressed this by forming partnerships with many national universities. Most analyst programs are online. So we have a national partnership with them to obtain their students as interns so they can complete their practicum. And then, of course, once they've worked for us doing their practicum for about a year, as soon as they graduate, as soon as they obtain their board certification, we hire them on as analysts. So in a sense, we're creating our own staff. In addition, what was your second question?
Well, so really, I think you kind of answered part of it, regardless, and I think for your purposes, the demand and the on the market is there. In other words, people need this service, right? You've proven to have waiting lists and growth opportunities there. I'm just making sure that your business model can scale to handle and operate and get enough people involved who are qualified to see that mission all the way through and deliver on the demand and the waiting list that's there. So it's really a matter of your scalability of this program.
It is very scalable. The only qualified personnel that you truly need is a behavior analyst. They have a master's degree in either psychology or education. They're board certified to do applied behavior analysis. But the people who actually work one-on-one with the children are technicians. And the only qualification for that is a high school diploma. So you can have one child per technician, and an analyst can oversee up to 13 of those. So it's kind of like a tiered model, if you will, where you can scale pretty quickly. As long as you don't push the analyst to cover too many children, the quality is still there, which is why SOS puts a hard stop on that 13 limit.
Well, that's that's answers one of my questions, but I would first say congratulations. I mean, I love the idea that you're building a business but doing good here is just phenomenal. I would say that at United Franchise Group, we're always looking for niches. And this is as niche as they get. And so I look at this and say that this is exciting to see. I do see some of the challenges that Brian is talking about with state regulations and federal regulations and other things maybe coming in there. But I do, I've met with a car wash business that was hiring autistic kids to do the work. And so again, there's some real strong opportunity for you to develop that side of it. Have you considered, charities? And obviously there's a lot with autism that are out there that, some of this goes toward that. And I would look at that as one of the areas. Most important to me, though, you've already started franchising and you've got 6 franchisees. How are they doing, as far as sales and success on a scale of 1 to 10? Where would you put these franchise owners?
The franchisees are doing very, very well. There was a small dip during the beginning of this year when coronavirus hit, as it affected every business everywhere. But as a medically necessary service, nobody shut down. We were all able to stay open the entire time. They did slow down a bit, but we were very lucky in that we are an essential service. So we were able to stay open. Everybody is filling the clinics back up again. Once school started, it really started flowing normally again. And I would say the franchisees are very happy to have their children back in the clinic.
Okay, Nicole, you have a very compelling story, and I think that will draw a lot of people to you. I'm going to go kind of where Brian and Ray have been on a couple of the concerns first. If there's a change to the ACA program, will your franchisees still get payment for the services?
Yes, great question. And there is no possible way that the ACA can take away autism services after adding it. There is too much awareness, too much demand. It is an essential healthcare service. But in addition, there was recently a study done where they discovered that the cost of early intervention, meaning the cost of supplying a child with treatment services while they are young, costs 10 times less than if they never did treatment at all, because the therapies give the child independence. And if they don't learn that, then they become a dependent on their parents and on the state. They have to go into homes or have Medicaid or disability or SSI. So it's actually cheaper for the government to pay for these early interventions than to not have it at all. There's no way that they would ever stop paying for these services.
That's great. Now, I know there are independent businesses that are like yours, because I know parents are desperately looking for help with this. Have you put a marketing program together where you can reach out and convert them to the franchise model, not acquire them, but give them a compelling reason to convert to the franchise model?
Absolutely. We do have a conversion model. And of course, it is a lot cheaper than starting one up from scratch, of course. But we do have the conversion program where they essentially change their name to Success on the Spectrum. They have to adopt our operations manual. We give them training, and it will help them. The support that we give our franchisees is very valuable. For instance, during coronavirus, when no one was able to get gloves, when no one was able to get cleaning supplies, when no one was able to get masks because they were all gone off the shelves, as a larger corporation with our big corporate accounts, we were able to get all of these supplies for our franchisees and supply that to them. We were able to put up sanitizing standards that allowed our parents to trust us enough to bring the kids back into the clinic or continue services in the home setting. And we were able to support them through that and make the parents feel comfortable enough their kids were safe. We even had a large event that we joined up with AFC Urgent Care, and they came out and tested all of our clients and all of our staff once a month to make sure that we weren't spreading any sort of infection. And these are big group efforts, and being a part of a group and a big team allows you to surpass obstacles that smaller clinics wouldn't have the opportunity to get.
Nicole, I guess I am the finance guy in the room and the funding guy, and so sometimes I see the glass half empty instead of half full. And but I will say that your personality is fantastic. I think you can certainly be a real asset to, and your passion would be a real asset in helping potential prospective franchisees decide to come and work with you in building their businesses as well. But I've got a couple of questions. Obviously, I think all of us are concerned about regulation. And being from Texas, I know that Texas is not the most regulated state. As a matter of fact, we're probably pretty low down the tier as far as where there might be state issues at all. Do you see that as a problem as you work outside of the state of Texas?
Actually, the opposite is true. Texas has less regulation, which means that there's less regulation on health insurance agencies. There are 41 states that have federal mandates for their state Medicaid program to cover autism therapy as a service. Texas does not have that mandate. So here we are starting in what you would say the lowest bar state there is. We're only working on private insurance instead of public insurance, and we're doing very well. In other states, Medicaid does pay for that. And so more children have access to the payment plans that allow them to get ABA therapy.
Interesting. As you move to, what are the roles of the franchisor in this? The training that you provide, how to work through the maze of governmental regulation and stuff, what part of that do you put on the franchisor side of this equation, and what part is it the individual unit owner situation?
Absolutely. Of course, every state is going to have their own different regulations. And of course, the federal government also puts a few regulations, but there are actually very few. As a private, what we are known as is a professional medical service. We're not doctors, but it is a professional medical service. There's very, very, very little regulation on the things that we can do because it is all professional based, and it is a medical service. So the government, not being a medical agency, can't say what is medically necessary or not to that extent.
It's okay. I'm just looking really, Nicole, for what part, how much of that you take on as the franchisor and that cost. I'm really looking for what cost is that to you versus what part of that is at the franchisee level. That should help you with the answer, I think.
Gotcha. So franchisees are responsible for knowing what their state regulations are. We usually send out newsletters every month with updates about different states that have changes that come into play. These are always announced far ahead of time. There are many websites that help us learn about these new regulations, which states offer the Medicaid program, which do not, if they have certain limitations on how many hours you can bill per day. We try to keep our franchisees informed as much as possible. However, each franchisee is going to have their own contracts with their private health insurance companies. So for example, my location in Houston has a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. That contract is locked in for the life of the contract. So basically, if there were ever any changes that would affect that contract, Blue Cross Blue Shield is actually the one responsible for sending that memo into each individual person that they sign with. So it's very easy to learn about changes. In addition, we have set the bar for our franchisees pretty high. We are a partner with the BHCOE, which is an accreditation agency. They also help us keep track of all of these regulations and changes that come in. But we already have a very high standard set for ourselves. We are seeking quality services to offer. So any regulations that have been put in so far, we have already surpassed them.
And finally, what has been your biggest challenge of taking this from your own unit, I mean, your own operation that you get to touch, control, and manage as tightly as you wish, to a franchise model where you now have to work through the franchisee to do the same results? What are you seeing as the biggest challenges on your end?
My biggest difficulty at the moment is keeping the quality of the services high. We are looking for owner operators. I have a fear that some big shark investor that owns a bunch of gas stations and dry cleaners are going to come in, buy up a bunch of franchises, and just not care how they're run or only worry about the numbers. That's my biggest fear. So we're very selective when we allow franchisees to come in. They have to be involved, they have to be owner operators. We train them to run the business themselves. And that's what's going to keep the quality high. That someone who cares about the business and the services, it's not just about the numbers. We are here to serve the children. And I think that reputation, keeping that reputation is going to be difficult because the autism market is so hot. There are very many, I get at least 2 emails a week, people emailing me trying to buy my business and trying to make one giant company. And the quality is just not there if it's run that way.
So Nicole, I think, to kind of bring it all together, and I agree, one of your fears is a big investor to come in, and where investors plural as franchise partners, and not, bring the other side of what it is most important. And it's about the children, it's about the service, and all of the above. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about building your franchise community from the inside out, people who are already connected to the industry, people who are already connected either emotionally or through, friends, family, et cetera, colleagues, that you can kind of grow and together keep that brand alive, the service quality high. And at the end of the day, you have control, right? You're, as the franchisor, you have the ability to filter people coming in and out of your franchise system. And that's something for you to kind of keep tight and scalable. And, I think there's some challenges ahead, certainly. And those are things that, we can all kind of help and work with you on to explore further. Obviously, and unfortunately, the industry is on a increase, right? And the need is there. So we all agree the need is there. And it's just kind of working through on how to now take what you started and build a franchise model around it, that you can keep and maintain that control of. And that's going to be very, very important. So Dream Team, unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. Thanks again for joining us, Nicole, and we wish you all the best.
I'd like to thank the Dream Team and the Titus Center for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us for the Franchise Hot Seat. And remember, our purpose is to inform and educate. We are not selling franchises. Do your homework before investing in any business. Franchising is a powerful methodology for business ownership, and it may be the best way for you to own a business and build personal wealth. But franchising is not without risk, and it's not for everyone. Some quick thank yous to our sponsors. Since its founding in 1999 by IFA Hall of Fame honoree Tariq Fareed, Edible has been at the forefront of supporting franchising and entrepreneurship as a path to the American dream. Support your local Edible franchise outlets. Transworld Business Advisors is the world leader in the marketing and sales of businesses, franchises, and mergers and acquisitions. They've got 240 offices worldwide. Accurate Franchising is a full-service franchise consulting and development company that assists brands with developing franchise business models, along with assisting existing franchisors brand expansion through franchise sales services. Crank Enterprises is a venture marketing company introducing a modern-day twist to private equity. Their mission? Turn ideas into dough. You want to sit in the hot seat? Or have you got a question for us? Visit TitusCenterForFranchising.com and let us hear from you. I'm John Hayes, leading the Titus Center for Franchising, where we're educating the next franchise generation.